Hello and welcome. The goal of this podcast is to get listeners connected with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know, and now you know us. All right, hello and welcome everybody. This is your host, Connor Shank, and today you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast, a show committed to connecting you with other sports industry professionals. And today we have the pleasure of meeting San Diego native Kyle Wada. Thanks for joining us today, Kyle.
Thanks for having me, Connor.
Of course. And it's good to have someone kind of from my own backyard on the podcast. We've had some individuals across the country join us. And obviously you've not in, Carlsbad, California anymore, but one day we'll get back. Anyways, I digress. So Mr. Wada has been all over the sports industry, brand ambassador for Robach, has been sports partnerships with Prime currently, athlete marketing, management, ticket sales. So he's in his young, illustrious career kind of been in different roles and responsibilities. So excited to kind of dive into, a little bit of your background, Kyle, and give some of the listeners and viewers who may be entering, their a master's degree or just getting done with their undergrad degree. You've got both there with the University of Alabama and then Georgetown University where you got your master's. So really to kick it off, Kyle, how about, what you've been up to? Kind of how'd you get to where you're at today?
For sure, yeah. So like you said, thank you for the background and having me on. But like you said, I'm the youth sports partnership coordinator at Prime Hydration. Prime is a company that was started in 2022, so it's still a newer company, but we sure have exploded over the last. I've been with the company since September, so over the last 8 months has been a crazy journey, but really excited to be working for Prime and in this department. But before at Prime, I grew up in Carlsbad just like you did, similar path plan, really all the sports that you can imagine, and then sticking with football and lacrosse in high school. But honestly, my passion for the sports industry really started, in the Pop Warner days, playing with Jake, your brother, and just always playing sports throughout my childhood. And then throughout high school, lacrosse was always my number one sport just because I was better at lacrosse and I wanted to be recruited for lacrosse. So really eighth grade on into junior year, me and my dad would always go out to, through my tournament teams or my club teams in high school, go back east and always, went on these recruiting trips, these tournaments. So that was always my vision, going into high school. I wanted to play in D1 in lacrosse, but unfortunately, or I wouldn't say unfortunately, but just things change. And ultimately, I wanted to go to a bigger school in the D1 lacrosse landscape in terms of the universities that are in D1. Not too many are like kind of those bigger programs, those bigger athletic programs. I mean, you have your Michigans, your Ohio States, those select few. But the majority are more of a smaller universities, and it was always a dream since I was a kid watching. And here I go, like watching the University of Florida teams with Tim Tebow and that docu-series that I'm sure a lot of people have watched. I've just been a huge fan of those big athletic departments and being a part of a big school that always competes in March Madness, always competes in now the college football playoff, but back then in the BCS championship era. And so basically I said no to the lacrosse plan, and toured a couple schools in the South, Alabama and Ole Miss, and really fell in love with going to Alabama. Luckily, my best friend 𝗲𝗏 went to school with me, so it was an easy transition. Just already knowing someone going to the school with me. I'd never been to the South before my tour and my visit back in senior year of high school, but just loved that atmosphere, that energy in Tuscaloosa, and ultimately went there for 4 years. And while I was there, I got my bachelor's degrees in finance and marketing with a minor in PR. Kind of the reason for that route is I had a really good advisor named Jeff Clark there at Alabama at the business school, and he actually was a sports management master's grad from Florida State. So he kind of understood, the sports space and kind of what I was looking for. And at that time, my freshman year, I didn't think the school had a sports management program. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, to be quite frank, going into Alabama. So, I just chose really broad type of majors, finance and marketing. And then he was like, well, if you want to be a sports agent, which at the time I wanted to be freshman year, he was like, a sports agent needs to know or have knowledge in finance, marketing, and also public relations. So took that to heart, and that's why I got my bachelor's degrees in finance and marketing, and then a minor in PR. And thankfully, my junior and senior year at Alabama, I interned for a couple of agencies, one being a kind of a startup at the time, Law for Sports and Entertainment, and then my second one, Playmaker Talent, two really good companies. Learned a ton from both of those internships. One, obviously, like I said, Lawfer was a newer agency, so really got to see the ins and outs of like an agency really starting to get built out from ground up,
Yeah.
and see how kind of tough it is in the agency representation industry. And then the second one was Playmaker, and Playmaker was great because kind of worked out where I would help in terms of the NIL, and NIL was big my junior year. That's when it came out, I believe, in 21 of July. And kind of helped out a little bit there. And they had some premier talent in the NFL and NBA, retired and also still playing. So it's cool to, kind of in quotes represent those guys, and look for marketing partnerships in that aspect. And then that led me into senior year, fall into winter. I knew I wanted to further my education in sports, so I decided to get my master's degree, and I ended up at Georgetown University, the sports industry management program. Great program, highly recommend it to a lot of people. So basically, after my 4 years at Alabama, I moved in a box truck van with one of my closer friends, Adam, and he was actually going to Georgetown for his master's in bio. So it just worked out. We both went to Georgetown from Alabama. Both lived there for a year. Had a great time living in DC. Obviously, I'm a California kid at heart, so it was a different experience, but honestly an experience that I would never have changed, and learned a lot throughout my time at Georgetown. My professors were all adjunct professors, meaning they work in the industry, so they have a lot of connections within whatever they were teaching at the time. And then also at Georgetown, I interned at 3 different companies. I interned at Premier Athlete Agency, which is an agency based in San Diego. And then I was a ticket sales and operations assistant in the Georgetown athletic program. And then kind of like my final semester living in DC, I interned at Sports Stars, an agency based up in New York. But all those were remote besides the Georgetown one. And all 3 of them gave me more experience, and really curated my experience in terms of, exactly trying to deter exactly where I wanted to land in the sports industry. And that's why, that's my long-winded answer in terms of how I got to where I am today. But all those steps, whether that's through education or my internship, has helped me in some way or fashion get to where I am today.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And I think, for the listeners, I guess, and viewers, or maybe just in undergrad, going to grad school or whatnot, I think the experience, whether that's through actually work experience or whether that experience comes through education, as you mentioned with the masters, and I think there's a lot to be said for that alone, just kind of building your experiences, also building your network in those different roles and whatnot. But for those who might be interested, obviously you're with Prime now, so this isn't strictly in athlete marketing, but you have had a number of positions in the athlete marketing realm. For those who are interested, what does a kind of athlete marketing look like nowadays? As someone who's been in it recently, what does kind of a day-to-day look like? Brand reach out, athlete reach out. What does that look like?
Yeah, athlete marketing is super fun. Just the name in itself, when you think of marketing, you just think of the creativity side of it. And then also now that you're working with athletes, which is always cool. So that was always a dream of mine, kind of freshman year of college, was to do something, sports marketing, and, happen to help out a lot with athlete marketing. And obviously now that NIL is a huge thing, and a lot of college kids and even high school kids are looking to bank off their name, image, and likeness. It's grown more relevant in terms of, within agencies opening up their own NIL departments, sports marketing departments, or just flat out a sports marketing agency and not like an on-field type of agency. So there's really 2 sides of that kind of business of athlete representation. You have on-field representation, which is, your actual contract, and then your off-field representation, which is like your marketing endeavors for an athlete. So I liked, and I still enjoy doing some athlete marketing on the side. I think it's really cool to learn more about the athletes and what kind of they like off the field that not a lot of people get to see, because a lot of people just see them, and for me, I love the NFL. So most people just see their jerseys. Most see them in the helmets, but don't really know what their personal lives look like off the field. So it's cool to kind of really engage in those conversations with those athletes, and just get to know them on a personal level,
Yeah.
and see what they like to do off the field, and then see where, just through my experience here at Prime, and also just kind of on social media, looking at what companies and brands in that are in that space and that have that budget to work with athletes, because not a lot of companies do. But honestly, the companies that do have that budget or create that budget see a lot of profit off of it, just because athletes are, some of the, kids and even parents, biggest heroes off the field. Or, when you're watching TV, watch sports like Caitlin Clark because of the athlete. So if you see that athlete representing a brand that you don't know about, then shoot, you're gonna, go to that website or buy something from that brand. So I think it's a really cool, kind of field of sports industry. And I was lucky enough to, be in that position at a few agencies to, kind of represent, a lot of, different talent across NFL, NBA, really NFL and NBA.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. And you mentioned kind of I guess the meteoric rise the past few years of Caitlin Clark, and I think that'll, just goes to show how much a college athlete can now impact, a professional standard, right? Because now I think it was like 30 of the games are already sold out, and she's not even been drafted to the WNBA yet. So I think that's just crazy. And it shows, what college athletes can do for sports, as far as marketing, athlete endorsements, strategic partnerships and the things that they go through, as we, I guess, progress, through this NIL beginning phase, as you could say, going forward. But I was interested in, a lot of people, I guess, when they first get into the sports industry, ticket sales, ticket operations, sales executive positions are kind of some of the first that they get into, because there's a good number of them. Obviously, teams need them, things like that. So what was your, I guess, thought on ticket sales? How did it go? Ticket sales and operations, going forward. What'd you enjoy about it? What maybe did you not enjoy about it? Things like that.
Yeah. Very grateful for my time with the Georgetown Athletic Office and ticket sales. A lot of people don't realize how much work actually goes into ticket sales, because everyone needs a ticket to get into any sort of sporting event, and everyone has questions about, most of the time, questions about the event, whether that's parking, if I can get more tickets. Heard a lot of questions about, do you guys still use paper tickets, like actual, like, printed paper out?
Right.
But everything was all digital. So
Digital.
that transformation was kind of cool, because even at Georgetown, we were believe at the time we were switching everything digital, and
Mhm.
all the older people that had been so used to bring a paper ticket or even going to the box office, that was no longer. So just a lot of different inquiries, but honestly, that my time there was super helpful, because, and like for all my internships, I really got to see what I really wanted to do in the sports industry, which is sports marketing. I'm glad I'm where I'm at today.
Mhm.
And honestly, if I hadn't gone through that ticket sales route at Georgetown, shoot, I could have started out, doing ticket sales for any of the, big or any professional or minor league team
Right.
out there. So I really enjoyed my time there. It's an important part of athletic programs across the country and professional teams. I mean,
No
that's,
doubt.
ticket sales is the biggest driving revenue for most teams and programs. So happy to support Georgetown athletics during my time there. But I'd say some fun things about doing ticket sales were kind of just researching, like I said, I wasn't from DC, researching local, like police stations, fire stations, and kind of giving them tickets, just to give them an opportunity to go watch, whether it's Georgetown men's basketball, which is a pretty big brand name, or really any Georgetown sport. So given the opportunities to those the service members, or even like after school programs, that was something that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And I think it's a good opportunity for people kind of who are just getting into sports and kind of get a, maybe I guess a full view of kind of how it works, kind of behind the scenes, right? As the game goes on. But one of the cool things you're doing now is with Prime, and I guess Congo brands. Are they the parent company, or is that how that works?
Yeah, so yep, Conga owns Alani Nutrition, 3D Energy, and then Prime.
Okay, got it, got it. And then, as you mentioned, Prime's only really been around, I think it was 2 years now. So I think the spot they've put themselves in with all the league sponsorships, the team sponsorships, and the youth movement that they're going through. It's been fun to see, and they've really taken over. I mean, I think they've done record number of sales and things like that. So how's your time been with Prime? And you're kind of in the youth department with the events and things like that. So talk to us
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, kind of like you said, our sports partnerships has really taken off since I've been with the company. The WWE being like one of the first sponsor, the first sponsor with our bottle in WrestleMania in the middle of their not the octagon
The ring
in
mat, or
the
whatever it's called.
ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really cool. Just considering how long WWE has been around for. And that's just not just one, but the Dodgers, the Lakers, those domestic partners in the US, and then also internationally, a lot of growth there. So it's been a really fun time to be a part of the company, a growing company.
Mhm.
But yeah, like you mentioned, I'm our youth coordinator. Do most of our youth, like all of our youth sports events, tournaments, camps, clinics, tryouts. So really everything that you can imagine when you're a youth kid or younger kid playing youth sports.
Yep.
Really just our goal with that is just to get our product, is like you said, it's a newer product, and sometimes people always go, I see Prime on social media, but I have no idea where to get it. So
Mhm.
we love to kind of be at these different events, supporting these players with hydration, and just kind of creating that lifelong consumer. Because I know when I was a kid, that's kind of where you create your brand affinity at a
Yep.
young age, and like to carry that through your 20s and 30s and 40s and what's not. So that's what I do, is youth sports partnerships, and really just try to create opportunity for just growth in the youth sports sector.
Yeah, and then talk to us a little bit about kind of, maybe orchestrating on-site activations at youth events, what goes into it, how, I guess, early on you're talking to camp advisors, teams, or whatever. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of inbound inquiries just because now that I've been in this position, and we've opened up this position about 8 months ago.
Mhm.
A lot of people have heard about it through either my LinkedIn. People see me posting stuff on LinkedIn about us being at tournaments.
Right.
So a lot of inbound inquiries from event circuits or organizations all across the country about wanting us to kind of be at their tournaments or events, which is really cool. So a lot of just kind of fueling those requests.
Mhm.
And then also there's some outbound too. Like when I was a kid, I specifically remember, the bigger tournaments either that I played in or just had heard about, from a recruiting standpoint. So it's been kind of cool to research those tournaments and those events, and then just kind of being a part of it. Cause like I said, I remember when I was a kid, and I enjoyed having, for my time, having Gatorade on the sideline or
Mhm.
Powerade on the sideline. And I just thought it was always cool. So it's cool to be on the other side of things, and providing that opportunity and that hydration for the kids. So that's really kind of, I guess, my day to day, and that's how we orchestrate youth sports partnerships, is the inquiries, and then also some outbound, and then how we kind of set up with on-field activations is through our field marketing teams, in which I think we have around 20 to 23. It's a growing number. Our field teams are based across the entire country, from literally ranging from LA to Charlotte. So
Right.
have a great team or teams all across the country. And let's say we have an event in one of our areas, we'll send our team out there, kind of with a 10 by 10 tent footprint setup. Really just having them on site, creating that fun experience, and passing out as much hydration as possible, just so parents can even try it, because we understand parents have the purchasing power, and then
Yep.
obviously the kids flock to it because it's free and it's hydration. So
Mhm.
it's been really cool to see the kids enjoying the product, and just kind of see how fast the brand has taken off here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it reminds me back in the day, I played in a 7-on-7 football tournament in high school, and it was the Red Bull tournament, but we were drinking Red Bulls on the sideline to stay hydrated. So it's a
Yeah,
much better idea to be drinking Prime at your local
yeah,
youth camp, besides chugging Red Bulls in between series during a football game. But yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. And have you guys seen a lot of success, I'm assuming, with rising brand power, and that's kind of where you want to stay, is with these youth camps going forward?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the younger kids really love the product,
Yep.
and that's how, at that age you really get to pick not even just your hydration, or your go-to hydration, but really everything, from clothes to your own personal style. So I think being a part of that younger crowd, you get your brand around it, and the kids really flock to it. So it's been cool to see this, not the support, but how the kids react to the product or
The
us being at
response.
these tournaments. So it's definitely amazing to see the impact that we made.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I guess, through your time in the sports industry, has there been, I mean, it could be Prime too, one of your projects, favorite event you've helped put on, something kind of glamorous that the listeners and viewers can think about. Yeah, okay, maybe one day I could do that.
Yeah, I'd say there's a couple things. The biggest partnership that we've kind of done is with Adrenaline Lacrosse, and like I mentioned,
Mm.
grew up playing lacrosse as a kid, and probably went to I wouldn't say hundreds, but a lot of Adrenaline Lacrosse events throughout the country.
Hmm.
And just being a kid, playing in those lacrosse tournaments, always look for hydration. So we were able to, come to a partnership with Adrenaline Lacrosse, which hits home for me,
Very
just because
cool.
it's a San Diego-based company, and then tournaments that I played in. So that was definitely one of the cooler ones. And then also the youth football camps or youth football and baseball and even NBA camps that we've partnered with and are still partnering with throughout the summer, is partnering with select athletes, providing hydration at their camps, because I understand from the athlete side of or point of view that these athletes love giving back to their communities wherever they're from.
Hmm.
And a lot of the time they need hydration at their camp. So being able to support something they enjoy, which is giving back to their community, and then on top of it, having a brand like our Prime, or us being in Prime, being
Yeah.
at that camp, really just adds value to their camp, and then also makes it more of an enjoyable experience for all.
Yeah, no, very cool. And it's I think it's a cool kind of opportunity, cool spot to be in. It's kind of in the best of both worlds with a really, up and coming brand, as well as being with the athletes and working in that space. So, and I think
Hmm.
it kind of goes to show that the sports industry, you don't just have to work for a specific team or like a league, right? Like yourself, you're working for, a brand, but heavily within sports, which is the cool thing about, the
Hmm.
sports sector. So is that something that you mentioned when you first kind of went to Alabama, you want to be a sports agent, but did you ever think like, oh, I could work for a brand within sports? Like, did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly never thought I would be working on the brand side of things this early. I always knew I wanted to work in an agency, and that's still where my passion lies.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, like there's a lot of transferable skills.
Yeah,
When I was on that athlete marketing side, who am I reaching out to? I'm reaching out to brands. So
exactly.
obviously, I'm not in like that sports partnership, athlete partnership side of Prime, but it's cool to kind of learn these transferable skills that you can you understand what Prime strategies and goals are. And it's cool to see like a brand like us versus like when I'm on the athlete side of things, like when you're just kind of cold outreaching to a bunch of these brands, you kind of just, hey, we have this XYZ client list, do you want to work with us? So
Mhm.
it's really cool to understand like internally what brands are, their objectives are, because it makes it a little bit easier when you're on the athlete side of things, trying to understand like, all right, this brand definitely doesn't work in sports, so I'm not going to reach out to them, so I won't waste my time. So it's cool to be on both sides of the pillow, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it kind of gives you an inside look on how the other side's playing, kind of re-engineer for when you go back to, I guess, an athlete agency or whatnot in the future, but kind of gives you those skills. And you mentioned earlier kind of whether it's inbound, outbound, a lot of kind of people reaching out, connecting with you. Is there a certain part or a certain structure to your day, whether it's emails first, calls first, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it really changes every week, but I mean, honestly, I always start my day working out. Just I work remote for Prime, so
Hmm.
just getting out of my apartment, and really either going on a work or going for a workout or going on a run, just to clear my head before that 8 a.m. strikes. And first thing in the morning, I just always look at emails if I don't have a call early on, and
Hmm.
then throughout the days or day, it's really just either hopping on calls internally or externally, and then strategizing around the months or the weeks to come. And then a lot of planning with events, and then once we do acquire partnerships or these events, a lot of logistics with our field marketing teams, like I mentioned. So kind of changes every week, changes every day, which is good because it keeps it fun and it keeps it not so monotonous.
Hmm.
But yeah, really enjoy have really enjoyed my time with the company.
Yeah, for sure. Then I guess it's, kind of working remote, it probably allows you to do, kind of separate your day into certain aspects and things like that. So
Mhm.
do you like the remote? Do you think you'd be more of an office guy? I'm always curious when, because, it's just
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I'm a talker.
Hmm.
So I like to communicate with people, and sometimes I do wish I was in office and communicating with people in the desk right next to me. But yeah, remote's been great because it gives you a great work-life balance
Yep.
as long as you stay disciplined with it,
Right.
and wake up when you have to wake up and do your daily chores or whatever it is. But I think the ideal job for me, and I feel like most people, is hybrid, just because
Hmm.
you still have that in-person element, but you're not going in 5 days a week. So I think eventually hopefully I can work in a hybrid role. But for this to be my first job, kind of right after Georgetown in college, has been a blessing in disguise in terms of working with a great company, and then also it's given me a lot of flexibility. That's how I moved here from San Diego. So
Yeah.
without it being remote, I couldn't have moved. So it's given me the opportunity to move here, which I have enjoyed my time living in Texas.
Yeah, very cool. And I think, a lot of kind of, as you mentioned, the hybrid role, a lot of companies, bigger agencies or sponsorship agencies have kind of done the 3 days in office, 2 days out office type of deal. So I think that's pretty common kind of nowadays, kind of for employees and for working for companies. But as you go throughout your career, there's certain, I guess, skills or things like that, that you've tried that you've like, okay, I'm going to need to learn how to be a good communicator. I'm going to need to learn how to write emails correctly. Like, what are some things like that that you've kind of picked up on?
Yeah, I think just the working lingo, like you said, about emails and adjusting from being a student to now being in the workforce.
Mhm.
It's not just hitting. I mean, there always will be deadlines, but in school, obviously, you have deadlines for papers, you have deadlines for certain things for homework. But obviously, in career mode, always want to be going above or going above the set in stone,
Yep.
whatever that criteria is, just to really stick out. But yeah, whether it be from emails, your day-to-day job, with like calls or whatever your job might be. I think it definitely was a little bit of adjustment, but honestly, not too much, just because I had a lot of internship experience prior to my first job.
Yeah, no, perfect. And then, like you said, with experience comes you learn more things and, stay up to date about industry trends and things like that. But are there certain, I guess, publications or newsletters, information, Sports Center, whatever it is that you stay up to date with for Prime specific? Like, okay, I saw, X company do this, so maybe we should
Mhm.
incorporate that. Is that kind of something you work into your day to day or not really?
Yeah, I mean, being remote, it's nice because I always can have either the Pat McAfee show on First Take or Get Up, and those three shows are my go-to for all
Mhm.
sports news. It's not, sometimes it's not sports business, but as far as the sports business sector, I think I'm registered or linked in with Front Office Sports for the
Mhm.
newsletter they come
Yeah.
out with, and then also just following Front Office and Sports Business Journal on Instagram, and Twitter, and kind of just always seeing refreshing the page and seeing whatever they're posting that day or that week. That's kind of where I stay up to date with any sort of trends. And then for the brands that work in like sports partnerships, kind of just especially in Texas, there's a lot of companies that are based out here. So
Yep.
just kind of always keeping an eye on what they're doing in the industry in terms of partnerships.
Yeah, no, no, it's very cool. And I think that's kind of a key, I guess, I don't know, maybe skill or talent or whatnot when you're in, I guess, any industry, but kind of seeing what other people are doing, kind of re-engineer back. Okay, they did that. That looks kind of cool. Maybe we could work something out, with our company. I think that plays a big role. I guess just bringing maybe new fresh ideas to things and within the
Hmm.
company going forward. But Kyle, I want you to kind of give you the floor here to wrap up and maybe what the future looks like for Prime for yourself, maybe some advice, I guess, to the listeners and viewers. But I'll just give you the floor here to kind of give you your final thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, thank you for your time. Thanks for having me on.
Mhm.
One big advice that one of my biggest friend or my biggest mentors and my friend gave me was LinkedIn should be your best friend. Obviously, as you know, and a lot of people in the sports industry know, connections is everything in this industry. So There's no better connection website, social media kind of app than
Yep.
LinkedIn. And that's how I got my start here at Prime. That's how I got a lot of my internships, was through reaching out through people or to people on LinkedIn, and really just finding the companies or the brands or the agencies that I really wanted to work at, and kind of seeing, what people were at, or the positions that people held that I wanted to be in, and reaching out to them for, industry, or industry advice, kind of career advice questions. And while I was at Georgetown, I think I connected with I do have a spreadsheet of over probably 75 people,
Mhm.
just literally cold, noting people
Right.
through LinkedIn. And that's kind of how I landed my first job here at Prime. That's how I landed my, Sports Stars internship. So LinkedIn definitely is a great resource for the sports industry. Get to see who's at what company, who's at what role, see what they're posting about. I'm a frequent user of it just through my job, and also just kind of seeing what's going on in the industry. So that's probably my biggest advice I'd give to, someone looking to get into the sports industry. And then also for someone also looking to get into the industry, volunteer at different events.
Yep.
Obviously, I live in a really big sports city in Dallas, so there's a lot of different events that are not saying that I have volunteered here yet, but there's just a lot of good opportunities in a lot of major cities to go volunteer and kind of just put your name out there. And that's how a lot of introductions start. And you never know who you can meet. And if someone sees a hardworking person at this event volunteering their own time on a weekend, you never know if that can end up with a job. So that's probably the biggest advice I'd give someone looking to
Yeah.
get into the industry.
Yeah. No, I echo those sentiments loud and clear, and I think that that's a good finishing spot for us. So that concludes another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. And a special thanks to you, Kyle, for sharing your experiences and thoughts and knowledge to the listeners and viewers here. And you'll be able to find this episode on Spotify, Apple. We'll do the video form on YouTube. And so yeah, you know what they say, it's all about who you know. And now you know Mr. Kyle Wada. So thanks for joining us, Kyle, and we'll see you listeners and viewers next week.